right, what's up? This is Joe Roscoe, co-host of Move Fast, Lift Heavy podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. If you like the podcast, don't forget, rate, subscribe, leave a comment. We would greatly appreciate it. You can follow us on the gram at Move Fast, Lift Heavy. As always, we have an exciting guest for you, but before we bring on our guest, we're going to bring on our co-host, founder of Move Fast, Lift Heavy, the man, the myth, the legend, Christian Harris.
What up? What up?
What's
good? What's up, bro? How we doing, man?
You know, just living the dream here on a Thursday. So always good to see you.
International Rest Day.
Yeah, but you put me on a 60-minute Concept 2 bike ride today, so that was something.
That's how we're living on a rest day.
Yeah, racked up that zone 2, just kind of was coasting.
That's it. Break a good sweat, earn that donut.
Yeah. I actually had some donuts yesterday, so maybe with our guest, I know we'll get into some coffee maybe, but maybe we'll talk some donuts too. You know,
we'll talk about the sweet. We're always chasing the sweet.
Okay, cool. All right, well, why don't you bring on our guest and we'll get into it.
So our next guest, good friend of the brand, good friend of mine. He's got a lot of life in the sport, very talented young man, very fit gentleman. You might know him by the name of Jake Marconi. Let's welcome him on to the show.
What's up, boys? I missed the dad hat memo. Y'all did not text me that before
this. you got the bun going on though. We got the hat.
That's true.
You got the good
true
bun.
That's true. I gotta move it way down here if I put a hat on. So
I was just gonna say, how do you navigate that wearing the hat?
I pop it through the hole.
Okay, there you go.
It's cute as hell.
There you go. Well,
thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Our pleasure. Can't wait to get into you making this rise in the sport and all the exciting things you've had going on in competition. But before that, we were chatting a little bit about coffee before we hit record. And you were saying that you kind of were ranking places that you've been with, I think, your family and checking out some coffee shops and whatnot. So let's talk coffee because CrossFitters, we love coffee.
Yeah, it seems to go hand in hand. I'm actually sipping on an espresso right now that I made here at home. Yeah, we were talking about whatever city I go to, any new place I go to. I started with my mom. We would just seek out coffee shops as a place to hang out and something, especially when we travel for like competitions. You can't do a ton of fun exploring before the competition. So we would just kind of bop around and look for good coffee shops as a place to just, my mom and I, as you find out and Christian knows, we'll talk forever. Like if you don't stop us, we're just going. Especially my mom, which if you know me is crazy because I'm really that way. My mom will talk to the wall forever. So the two of us together would just look for spots that we could just go hang out and talk and just chat about life. And it was always over a cup of coffee. And so pretty early on, I got super into coffee. And I say super into coffee in that I enjoy it. I'm not a huge coffee snob. I do be tasting the notes, but I'm not huge on like exactly how it's brewed or like weighing everything out. I just really enjoy it. And it's like a daily ritual. So my family and I, and now I have a couple of buddies that whenever we go away, we'll try to buy each other coffee and we'll come back. And I have one buddy here in Providence that we'll be splitting bags up and taking half of one bag and half of another and then calling each other and being like, how's it taste? So yeah, coffee is a big part of my day. But I'm not super particular about it.
How many cups are you having a day?
Oh man. Right now. So I didn't tell you guys this. When I got back from the games, I got COVID.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah. I have it.
Did you get it?
Did
you get it like when you got back or because I got it like that Sunday. That's why I wasn't around Sunday.
Yeah, I heard you weren't feeling well. Christian and I spent a ton of time together at the games. We got out there like a week early. So we were bopping around chasing the sweet together for days. But no, I got it. So I tested positive for it on Sunday. So not that long ago. But I had like a head cold on Thursday. So I think I got it either traveling home or when I got back. But yeah, a bunch of people around me got it, and a bunch of people who are vaccinated around me. I'm also vaccinated. Got it.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I didn't have any bad symptoms. I lost my taste. I lost my smell.
No. Did you get it back?
Yeah. So I lost
good.
it on Saturday, and like couldn't taste or smell anything except I could tell you if something was like spicy or if it was sweet or bitter. But beyond that, like I couldn't tell you that it was hot sauce or a hot pepper. Like I just knew that it was spicy.
Right.
And then on Monday morning, because I was drinking coffee still, but I ground some coffee and I could kind of smell it and it started to come back. But the whole time that I had lost it, I was like going around the house just sniffing things that had strong smells to see if I could smell. So I'd like to believe that I like trained it back. But
it was
it
a
came
fun
back
game, right?
quick. Yeah, I was like, can I smell that? I think I could smell it. Nope, I just remember how it smells. Yeah,
So how you feeling
but
now?
other than that, fine. So I haven't had much energy, but I couldn't tell if that was just like because I've been cooped up in the house. So I grabbed my mask and went for like an 1.5-hour walk this morning in a weight vest, and definitely feel better. But I haven't done any fitness all week.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but otherwise, nothing bad. My buddy got it, and he is pretty laid up.
That was me last week.
You were laid up?
I was on severe bed rest. The body aches were real. Like I felt like my back was crazy sore.
So it's funny you say that. My lower back has been pretty stiff and sore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're good now. I'm back in it.
Good. Yeah. My quarantine's over this weekend, so I'll start training again next week.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
Be prepared for a little bit of a rough time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go single session, mostly strength work. Yeah.
All right.
I was all excited. Go ahead.
You just said single session, so I was like, let's get into how Jake trains and how he's gotten all this started and all this. So everyone listening, Jake was recently at the Granite Games at the CrossFit Games semifinals. Before we jump into that, though, let's rewind to like how you get into CrossFit, what your either lifting or athletic background was. And let's start to like intro you to our listeners because I'm excited for them to get to know you.
Yeah, sweet. You want me to start at the beginning?
I mean, your trajectory that led you to competing and then maybe like getting into how you turn the corner of like, I think I want to compete in this thing. I think I want to take this seriously.
Right on. All right. So I've been fitness in some sort or strength sports has been my life since I was 13. So my parents were like active people. My dad was just, my dad, he's like the man's man.
Yeah.
Like he talks like this. But he always had been like super active and really into feats of strength. Like he's a carpenter. So I remember him like taking sledgehammers and trying to touch his nose without breaking his nose, because he'd hold it out at the end and just kind of bring it down to his face. So he'd always been into like feats of strength. And towards the end of middle school, I was like 5'3" and 160 pounds. So I was like a little bowling ball. And I remember coming home one day and I was like, Dad, I'd like to not be fat. I'm going to add this because she's going to yell at me if she hears this, but my mom was the first one who started not making me, but we'd wake up before school and go on like a walk around the block. So my mom got me into fitness, but when I would come home, my dad would be like, oh, let's do push-ups and sit-ups and all this stuff. So I started coming home after school in like 7th grade, and my dad and I for an hour would just do push-ups and sit-ups and wall sits. Wall sits were his favorite. We actually did box jumps onto their bed. We had one of those ab wheels. We had one of those trampolines. And so we would do a bunch of that stuff. But the whole time we had a little weight room in the basement, like a legit weight room. Like there was a bench in there. There was a ton of dumbbells. The whole wall was a mirror. So my parents always worked out. But when I started, we never did any of that. And then maybe 6 months into just doing a bunch of bodyweight training, my dad handed me this yellow crusty piece of paper that was laminated. And he was like, this is what I did. Go do this 3 days a week. So 3 days. And it was like, I have a picture of it somewhere. It had to be like 12 or 15 exercises. And it was like twice a week, go through this with lightweight and do the higher end of the rep ranges. And then once a week on Wednesdays, go through this just as a circuit and do the lower end of the rep ranges with heavier weight. And so I did that for like 6 months. And that was the first year of my training. And there was like nothing else that I wanted to do. I was racing BMX at the time, so like bikes. And it was that and working out. And that was all I wanted to do. And so going into 8th grade, or going into the summer after 8th grade, I like started to do a lot of my own research and started to compete in powerlifting. So the summer before high school, I did like a deadlift only meet. And I was 14 and weighed like 150 pounds. And I deadlifted 400 pounds. And so that was when I was like, oh, I think I'm going to try to compete in strength. So I competed in powerlifting for a couple of years, roped in a ton of buddies to do it. And so we would have like this little, I don't know, 150 square foot basement gym packed with just dudes in high school screaming at each other. Like we're doing sets of 5 and we would count backwards for every person who did that set of 5 and just scream it. And so every session was about as intense as you could possibly get. And I was doing all the research, and at the time the internet was a lot smaller. So like, I don't know if you guys know Chad Wesley Smith from Juggernaut Training Systems, Jim Wendler, 531, those dudes were really accessible. So I'd like Facebook message with them and ask them. I must have been so annoying. I'd ask them like questions only a 14-year-old would come up with about training. But I had no idea that these were like the best guys to be asking these questions to.
Sure.
But early on had some really, really cool guidance. And so sophomore year, one of my buddies was like, you're too angry and too strong. I wasn't that strong, but he was like, you're too angry and you're too strong not to be playing a sport. Come play football. So I ended up playing football and ended up having the whole team want to come over to my house to train, and it just wasn't big enough. And so I reached out to a local CrossFit gym that had just opened up and asked if we could use the space. And they emailed back and they go, oh yeah, do you have a coach who will bring you guys through workouts? And I go, yeah, me. Like I've been bringing us through workouts. I was our high school strength coach for our football team. My coach was like, hey, it's on you. Like you get the guys strong. And this gym was like, no, we're not going to do that. But we'll offer, it was a Land Warrior CrossFit. They're no longer a CrossFit gym, but they were like, hey, we'll give you 2 sessions a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, $26 a month for each person on the team. And we'll do strength and conditioning. Like we won't do CrossFit. We'll do CrossFit-esque strength and conditioning. And so that was my intro into a CrossFit gym. And so that was my sophomore year of high school. And we just stayed there twice a week for the rest of my high school career. I was still doing a lot of my own training.
How old are you and how long ago was that?
I'm 24. So this was 8 years ago.
So you're a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm young. And I was young when this was going down. I was a sophomore in high school. So I don't know what you are, 15 at that time. Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you what I was doing at 15.
I was working out a lot only. And yeah, so I was just super into it. And pretty soon as we joined that gym, the owners of the gym were like, oh no, like you really, really like this. And they took me under their wing and taught me a lot and gave me a lot of opportunities to kind of like coach the guys that I was training with and just learn from them. And So stayed doing that through high school. And at the end, when football was over, there was a group of guys that trained there and girls, and they were like, hey, you want to train with us for this thing called the Open? I was like, yeah, sure. And so I trained with them for the Open and competed in the Open in 2015. So that was 2015. That was the first time I competed in the Open, and went into it not with any expectation necessarily, but trying to be competitive. Like I was like, I want to compete in this. And so have been doing that since. And when I really turned the corner and decided that I was going to try to compete in this was the next year's Open. So the next year, 2016, I wanted to take top 100 in the Open. That was my goal in the region. And I was able to do that. And then ever since then, I've been on my path to try to make it to the games.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it hasn't really been too long.
No.
In the sport.
No. So I've been competing. 2016, I did Wadapalooza as a teenager.
Wow.
Yeah. That was my first games year.
Christian, I mean, sorry, that's kind of like out of context, but for Christian and that one hit me. I'm like, oh God, I'm so old.
See,
yeah,
that puts
I
into
forget
perspective
that
right
I'm
there.
so young. Yeah. Oh, trust me, I forget that I'm so young. I'm like, I don't have any time. And I'm like, no, you got a second. Chill out. Yeah, so I did my first in 2016, and then from there, I took like top 100 in the Open in the East Regional in 2016. 2017, I missed regionals by 2 spots. Like they backfilled, and I was like 2 spots out of backfilling, but didn't have any expectations to go to regionals that year.
I think that was right behind me, because I think I missed that year by 1 spot.
Then it was me and you.
Yeah, right
there. Yeah, and then the next year I made regionals and went, which was cool because that was the last year they did regionals. So I made it the last time they did regionals, which was awesome because I really wanted to go to regionals, and went into that with no real expectations. And then after that, it's been a ride after that. Some off times,
some weird seasons, sanctionals and COVID years, and now we got what we have going on now. What was your what'd you place that year at regionals?
I think it took 20th.
Okay.
In 2018. Yeah, I qualified in a big way that none of us expected, like my coach, Adam. So when I left high school, I came to Providence, grew up in Connecticut, moved to Providence, and the gym that I've been at for the last 6 years has been Full Range CrossFit, now Full Range Fitness. And for a lot of those years, Adam Milano, the guy who owns it with his wife, Alicia, he was coaching me. And so we made it, I say we, because it was largely both our journey trying to make it to regionals. I made it and qualified, like I was 3rd in the Northeast and 19th in the world. And so we just were like, didn't see that coming. So going into regionals, I remember Savan was interviewing me, and McCoy?
Yeah,
McCoy came up. He was like, hey, my buddy's saying that like you're a shoo-in for the games. And I was like, whoa. I'm just happy to be here, like not trying to make the games. Took 20th and got a lot of good experience that year. And to be honest with you, it was not what I expected. Not in that I was like surprised by it. It was just, I'm going to get shit for this, but it was less special than I expected. I was just like, oh my God, regionals. And then I made it and was like, yeah, this is another competition.
Sure. Now, since then, you have competed at Dubai.
Yep.
Right. Tell us about that experience. I've always wanted to go. What is that? What was that like?
So that was cool. So I competed at a weird year in Dubai because it was the first year that they were sanctional. So in the past, I think it was the athletes were, not that we were treated poorly, we were treated great. the athletes were a little bit more like celebrities when they were going there. Like there was a bit more spectacle around it because all it was an off-season competition that CrossFit didn't even acknowledge. So it was this own little cool thing that was happening down there. And the year I went, there was a lot more focus on it being a sanctional for the first time, which was really cool in its own right. It's interesting because there was this really clear separation where there was these sanctional level or regional level guys who were not, myself included, who were not like games caliber yet. And then there was the top half of the field that was like not only games caliber, but top 10 games. So there was this really interesting separation of levels there that made the competition, from my perspective, I had a terrible finish as far as the leaderboard went. And like, it wasn't a great competition for me, but it was this cool kind of juxtaposition of like, okay, I'm having my own little competition over here with myself and like these few other guys around me. And we're kind of also watching like these absolute elite of the elite go. And so that was cool. Being in Dubai was really interesting in that it's a lot like Vegas, and that it's this city that has just kind of popped up in the middle of the desert, right? In the same way that Vegas has. And a lot of what is there is, it's a hub for business for the world. But a lot of what is there is spectacle. So a lot of the stuff that we did after was going and seeing the tallest building in the world, the biggest mall in the world. There's a shark tank in the mall. I know you love that. Like a huge aquarium in the middle of this mall. So there was a lot of spectacle, and Dubai itself is really interesting. It was less cultural than I thought it was going to be because it's such a metropolitan city where there's so many different people there. But at the same time, you are very aware that you're in a place that is completely different than home. So the whole experience was a lot of really interesting juxtaposition between it being like one thing, but also being another, the competition included. We stayed at this beautiful 4-star hotel where there was no microwave in the room. And so we got these pre-made meals delivered, all the athletes did. But if you wanted to heat them up, you had to call room service, and they would come up, take your meal, bring it downstairs, heat it up. But when they would bring it back up, so it'd go away in this little plastic black container, they bring it back up on like a full platter. So platter, a little dome on it, and you'd have like the little mini ketchup and mustard and salt and pepper and like really nice silverware, and it'd come on like the room service cart, and then they'd come take it away. Which was an interesting challenge because you'd have to be like, all right, I want to eat in an hour. I got to start calling room service now. Yeah, there was a lot of things like that were just totally not standard to what we're used to at a competition. And then from like the athlete experience side, it was cool. Like anything we needed, we had a liaison that would help us get. We had a lot of amenities in like the athlete warm-up area. The athlete warm-up area was one of the most robust that I've ever seen. Like you had everything you possibly could want. And then the spectators, that was cool because even if you were like in 30th, they just thought that you were the coolest, which is always fun, right? You walk around and they're like, oh my God, you're awesome. Like, can I get an autograph? And I was like, I don't know why you want it, but of course. So that stuff was cool. I think the coolest thing about Dubai is that because it's so different and because we are all like, oh man, we want to go do that competition, you almost make it really cool yourself. You're just like, this whole experience is cool no matter what is happening. If I went back, I think it'd be different and I would treat it like any other competition. But at the time, it was just this unique experience for a lot of reasons.
I was going to say, would you go back?
Yeah, we left. We, as in my whole crew that I brought, and we were like, we don't have to go back. It wasn't like an absolutely spectacular, we have to come back here experience. But being removed from it for 2 years, yeah, I would definitely go back. I'm actually thinking about doing it this year. So if you want to go together.
I wonder.
Do they have sweet out there?
Yeah.
They have sweet. They definitely have sweet. Yeah.
I want to rewind to something you said when you were competing at that time and in your, certain phase in your timeline as a upcoming athlete. You had said, like, I was competing with a small group of guys, but then there's like, the next level of elite guys that was cool to like see them doing their thing. What did you take from seeing those elite competitors? And then how did it shift your mindset when you got back to the States with your training, or what you thought you needed to do differently, or what you needed to really capitalize or attack? How did seeing that and being on the same floor as them affect you?
Yeah. So it actually took me a really long time to learn some of the lessons that you're alluding to, and that I didn't. I just left that competition being like, and any competition in that like 2018 to 2019 range, just knowing that there was a gap between me and where I wanted to be, and just really thinking, okay, I'm doing all the things. Because at the time I was. So in 2018, my nutrition was dialed. My sleep was dialed. There was nothing that I was doing that was like, I'm sure there was if somebody looked at it, but at the time, to me, I had a bedtime. I had a schedule that I kept. I stretched every day. Like, I was doing all of the things, and it was just like, okay, all I need to keep doing is all of these things. And my only factor is time. In hindsight, that was true, minus the fact that I should have been looking at the elite and asking myself what was different in their mindset. Because at the time, I had elite capacity in a handful of things. Like, there were some things that I was at that level at, and there were a lot of things that I was not. But what I was particularly not, and still am working towards, is that mindset of being not in. I don't love the word elite, because if we're all if you're at Dubai, you're an elite competitor, right? You didn't like sneak in by accident. But that gap is largely mindset. And I never really knew what mindset meant, because at the time I hadn't endured any like hardship in my training, other than the fact that training is hard and like you make sacrifices to keep your schedule and do all the little things. But in the sense that I never had to work around an injury. I never had like a plateau that wasn't clearly related to something. I never didn't work on something and have it not get better. And so at the time, like, things just always were smooth sailing for all intents and purposes. And just, it was time. Time was getting me better. But right after Dubai, so right after that competition, so that was at the very end of 2018, 2019 was my first kind of go around with, all right, like, I'm doing all the things and I'm not really making progress, or the progress slowed to a point where it wasn't as apparent to me. And then, so I've competed a handful of times since, and most of the time I walk away from the competition going, especially Granite Games. So this was probably like the best experience I've had at a competition, this last one. And here's the answer to your question. I walk away going, all right, like, here's some things in my fitness that I have to work on. I know I need to get stronger in the Olympic lifts and my upper body. Like, that's just kind of always been the case. But I walk away from each with some experience in one of or multiple of the events that I go, oh, that's what the mindset thing means. Because I think it's really easy to say, like, oh, you need to have a strong mindset. And most people, they just think that strong mindset means like, you need to be unflappable, right? Like, you need to not be phased. And that's not necessarily true. At least this is what I have been learning, or think that I've been learning, is that that's not true. It's the ability. So at Granite Games, there was an event where at D-ball stepovers, and I took like, I don't know, 23rd on the event. And looking back, I realized, like, had I just took a second to be smarter in the moment, backed off for 10 seconds, thought about it, and did something differently, I would have taken top 10. And the difference is not anything in fitness. The difference was everything to do with like keeping it together.
How you were.
And figuring it out. Yeah. So I had held the D ball like this on my stomach the first time, even though Matt Fraser is on the sideline screaming, put it on your shoulder. I was like, no, come on, I know better. And the first set of step overs took me like 3 times as long as everybody else. And then I came back and put it on my shoulder and I was done. I beat some people off of the step overs that time. So mindset stuff like that, which is just experience, right? Like,
yeah,
so,
a lot of it's definitely experience, and it's like you said, taking that second to just reevaluate the situation and understanding that this little thing is what's making the difference right now. It could be a transition. It could be where you're putting the chalk down in between your sets, walking from the barbell to the pull-up bar. It's all those little things that, experience is a huge, huge factor, and learning from those experiences.
And that's the thing, learning, right? So like you asked me walking away from Dubai, I didn't think I needed to work on any of that because I was great at it in the gym. Like I could, in the gym, very often beat people that were fitter than me by making decisions like that, by being like, I'm going to chalk now, I'm going to break here, I'm going to bait this person in by going a little faster. Like I could play that game really easily and still can in the gym. And I just haven't been able to always translate it onto the competition floor. And so that has been something that I have been working on a ton. But you can only work on by going to competitions.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm assuming you think that just with more reps, it'll continue to come.
Yeah.
Quick little. We have someone from Germany wants to say hello. Anyone want to give a crack at how you say that?
Mome Jurgensen.
I'm gonna go with it. I'll go. Will you go with that?
Yeah,
Christian?
I think that works. Yeah, I'll accept it.
Well, hello.
Right.
I'll allow it.
We'll ask them if we pronounce it correctly.
Yeah. Hello from Germany. Thanks for saying hi. All right. So Granite Games, since it was also just a couple of months ago, wasn't too far away. Were there any other moment? They said really good at pronouncing the name. I'll bring it up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. But anyways, there was a couple of there was all the events I'll say as a spectator, so fun to watch. But what was one or two that really stuck out to you, either programming wise or execution wise, that kind of you either really enjoyed or you look back and you're like, kind of like the D-ball thing, you wish you kind of would have approached differently? Basically, let me ask this better. Like, let's get into like the athlete chalk talk of like, you got your CrossFit diehards out there that want to compete. Give us a couple of like examples or lessons learned, even more so than the D-ball one. I really enjoyed hearing you say that and your perspective on that event. Was there any other examples like that throughout the week?
Oh yeah, man. Every event, there's something like that. And that's not always the case, but at Granite Games, every event, there was something that I was like, cool, learn from that. Even if the event went well. There's two that stick out. One is the thruster run event. Was the second event of the weekend. It was at like 9:00 at night, which I loved. It felt like a Friday Night Lights football game. So going into the competition, like this is weeks before the competition, I was like, all right, I'm going to emulate Fraser's attitude. I'm going to train scared. I'm going to be afraid that everybody's going to beat me. I am going to go out there with like that mindset of just, okay, everyone's going to beat you. So go out there and try to not let that happen. It didn't work for me. I was trying. Normally, I'm like super relaxed in the warm-up area. I joke around a lot. Christian knows we train together. Like, I joke around a lot. And as soon as I step onto the floor or the starting mat, or we're in the gym and the clock counts down, like I turn it on and get serious. And I just started getting way too nervous and like way too in my head too early. So I warmed up like really nervous and was almost trying to make myself more nervous. I wasn't super nervous at baseline going into that event. And I try to get myself nervous. And then we got to the corral and I try to get myself amped up. So now I'm super nervous and I'm trying to get myself to like really get amped up to go crush this event. And I ended up walking on the floor and just being completely out of it. Like getting down there and looking around and being like, how did I get out here? Like, and they were like, athletes stand by. And I was like, oh boy. Like I don't have any, like I didn't have any go. And so that event ended up being one of my worst finishes. And it could have been, everybody says this, but it could have been a solid finish for me. Should have been much faster than I was. So went out there and picked up the dumbbells and they had them. So we were on turf, which was a factor I didn't think about. It's super squishy. So it was a little harder to balance. And it's 70-pound dumbbells are as big as I am. Like they're just a big dumbbell for me. And so we ran out and the dumbbell was on this little, like, I don't know, it might've been
square, right?
2 foot by 2 foot square, but it was one of the rogue ones that's like this thick. So itself, it was bouncy as well. So I clean the dumbbells, fall forward, like step over this square, have 1 foot kind of on it, 1 foot off of it, and start doing my thrusters. And so that was my start. And then
so you made yourself. So basically, you made yourself drunk before the workout
100%.
started.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I went out there, I came off. They're gonna kill me for telling you this. I came off, and my parents both are like great at hiding whatever they're feeling for me at a competition. My dad comes up to me and he goes, "You really messed that one up, huh?" And my mom comes up and she's like, my mom is oozing with compassion and empathy always. And she comes up and she goes, "Are you okay? What's wrong? What's wrong with you?" And I was like, oh boy, if they can't hide it, like it clearly looked that bad. So that event was just terrible. And what I took away from it was like, no, you've competed before. Your strategy in the past has worked. Like, let's not try to get super nervous and amped up. And I don't have any regrets about it because now I know. Yeah. Like it happened and that's fine. And now I know.
So you're Sean Baker basically. So I played football as well. And Sean went on to play in the NFL, but he was the guy in the locker room while I'm like zoned in and just ready to go. He was the guy just jerking around, being whatever. But like when the whistle blew or like when it was go time, like it was go time. So I take from that, like, know yourself and be yourself. Because if you try to be someone else, you're going to crap the bed.
And that's what I took from it too. So I went into day 2 in 27th place when I said to everybody around me, I trained with the mindset, like I'm going to Granite Games to take top 5. That is the goal. And the backup goal was the last chance qualifier. And so that is like a lot of people came out. So I'm going into day 2 in 27th place, like almost mathematically out of top 5. So yeah, that was a big lesson that will stick with me for sure. Because I think we all say, like you said, like learning from your mistakes in a competition. But if the competition doesn't go that poorly, it's kind of hard to learn from that mistake. It's just like, it happened, whatever. But it wasn't catastrophic. That was catastrophic. And so I definitely will remember it. On a positive side, the last event was like a calorie row, legless and normal rope climbs, 70-pound devil's press, and then an overhead walking lunge. It's the only workout I didn't test, which I also took away. Like I'm no longer testing workouts straight up because they're so different when you do them in a competition that it does not matter. Because a lot of my testing times would have been like first, and I did them with transitions. And then, so that was the only one I hadn't tested. So I had no idea how it would feel. And I was a little fearful that it wouldn't be a good event for me, but I also had no expectations at that point. So I was going into it like, I don't really know how this is going to go. it might go poorly for me, but I don't really have an expectation. It might not. I had no clue. And so we started, and I'm looking around, and I was like, not that far off of the rower behind some other guys. I think at this point I might have bumped myself into like the second heat. Ooh, I lost you guys. Hold on. I might have bumped myself into the second heat. So I had no idea what was happening and like what would happen. And by the time I made it to the lunges, I was like one of the first 3 in my heat. And so I realized at that event, like, okay, I know exactly how to pace things for myself, because I wasn't going to be the first guy off the rower. I'm a good rower, especially for my height, but like I knew I wouldn't be the first guy off the rower. On the rope climbs, I didn't rush it. I came off, and Matt was like, I've never seen anybody not jump on their rope climb. Like I didn't jump for my first pull. I just kind of strapped in and went. And that was to keep my heart rate down a little bit. And then the devil's press, I just chipped away at, and I went to the lunges, picked him up, did my lunge, put him down, took a second, did my lunge, and finished it. And like, there was no hiccup. And so I tell you that because when I came off, I was like, I went into that with no expectations. I had no real plan, and I allowed myself just to feel the event. And so what I took away from it was like, okay, I can pace an event even when I have no plan. I like don't know how it's going to feel. I can feel the event in the moment and pace it. And that goes back to the D-ball thing of being like, all right, if I can do that, I just need to go in with like a loose plan and know that it's going to explode and just be okay with it, and know that I can trust myself to make good decisions. So it was a really nice way to end the weekend on a confidence booster. I took like 10th on the event. It wasn't an incredible finish by any means, but it was all I had.
It's another knowing yourself moment. I was just listening to a podcast with a business guy, entrepreneur, and when he goes up for like public speaking or speeches, if he writes a speech out, he craps the bed. But if he goes up and just speaks from his heart and wings it, he crushes it. But on the flip side, I'm thinking of someone like Brent Fikowski, sorry, that's probably like got 65 pages worth of notes for one workout, but on your side of it, that would never work out for you. Like that's not how you vibe. So that's cool to hear you just share with. You got to go with what you're with, like, how you roll is how you roll, and you can't be anyone else.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I roll.
Hear that. Definitely interesting to hear that concept, because I'm definitely someone that I would 100% practice the event beforehand, just for the mere fact of knowing where I could potentially blow up and where I would need to conserve to be able to push maybe later in the workout and things like that. I would be a little skeptical unless it's something that I know I've done before. I don't think I would never not test something. So it's definitely interesting to hear that perspective and that, that mindset.
Yeah. Do you find that you don't know where you're going to blow up? Like, I feel like most times I can look at a workout and be like, that's the one.
And that's usually the thing, is it's usually not what I'm expecting. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times like, it's probably going to feel bad about right here. And sometimes it's earlier, sometimes it's not where I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So I kind of
need
that experience. Yeah.
That makes sense. And that's why I'm like, I am back and forth on the testing thing for myself, because it is good to know where it's going to blow up. But at the same time, I find testing it, and Fraser talks about this all the time, and we kind of debriefed and talked about this, him and I, it sets this expectation of how it's going to feel. And then when it doesn't feel that way on the floor, you freak out a little bit. And so like everything we're talking about, so I will go in.
There's validity in both sides for sure.
In all of it. And there's situations where like one is the appropriate. So I don't roll any one way all the time necessarily. Like in an open workout, I will to the second have it paced out. But on the competition floor, that just doesn't work. And I think that's why you see a lot of discrepancy, myself included, where you'd be like, that guy's always top 10 in this qualifier. And then they show up at a competition, you're like, oh, they didn't do that well. Because you can control so many variables, if you can control them, like actually control them, it'll pan out. You just can't actually control them on the competition floor because there's judges, there's surfaces, there's people in front of you. Like everything's just a little different.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Christian, we're gonna wrap this up. So we need to spitfire Jake and put him on the hot seat.
Ooh.
All right, let's put the man on the hot seat. Let's go.
Are you ready for this, Jake? Have you been preparing?
Let's do it. No, but
All right, sir. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Just let me know what's on your mind. Would you rather move fast or lift heavy?
ooh, move fast.
I know the answer to this next one, but coffee or pre-workout?
Can I do both? It's pre-workout.
Sure.
It's pre-workout though.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
I got it
Before
wrong.
workout, pre-workout. Yeah.
White Monster?
They're in the fridge right now.
Current favorite sneaker?
Oh, current favorite. Nike Kill Shot, white, blue check, gum soles.
There you go. Favorite brunch food?
I'm going to say this. I haven't had it in a really long time. French toast.
Okay. I love French toast. If you had to pick one exercise for the rest of your life?
One exercise for the rest of my life. That's a tough question because all right. Back squat. If I wanted to be strong for the rest of my life, I just wanted to be fit for the rest of my life, rowing.
Okay. I like it. Give me an idea. Give the people an idea of your current playlist.
So it's called Boogeyman. And it has the first song on it is Feedback by Kanye West. You know that song?
Yep.
It's got Tory Lanez, Meek Mill. Who else is on there? NF. You know NF?
NF.
I do.
Give me something.
I like that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, NF is on there. Who else? Lil Wayne's on there. It's a lot of rap. And this particular playlist is like, I don't know how to describe it necessarily. It's a lot of like heavier rap, like heavy bass, heavy beats. Yeah, I'll send it. I think you'd like it. A lot of 808s.
You got NF.
Yes.
You got Layers and Clouds from NF. You should check out, Christian.
I will.
Layers and Clouds.
Yeah.
I have When I Grow Up.
Okay. Yeah. You brought up Monster. Do you have any more hot seat questions? Sorry, Christian.
Nope, that's it.
All right.
I'm all wrapped up.
How about that amazing branding stunt from Monster at the CrossFit?
Oh my God.
That
Dumping Monster on the water. It was good.
From the jump, I knew it was water. I was like, because it was unanimous. Like everyone was willingly drinking out of the can. But I'm like, there's no way this is actually Monster in there. But it was water. So
yeah, it's brilliant.
Brilliant by Monster. But I thought it was really a bad play by CrossFit, who supposedly has this like war campaign against soda and like drinks of this nature. I thought it was
who owns Monster?
Who? Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
Maybe this is because of CEOs changing with Rosa now instead of.
I 100% think that's the case.
Because Rosa is a business money man. So he was like, yo, if the dollar sign's right, then Monster, you're in.
Well, 100%. I mean, you have a company like that's backing the CrossFit Games. They can support it.
Yeah,
100%. It's funny. I I have no problem with the monster thing. I get the optics of it being funky, but like if we're gonna be a sport, we're gonna be a sport kind of away from the original ethos of CrossFit. And maybe the people at the top disagree with that, but I feel like we're more of a Red Bull sport.
Oh, then Monster.
Right? Like, don't you think our branding is a little bit more that of Red Bull? It's like slightly cleaner.
I haven't seen any others, but Camille LeBlanc has been one of their people for a while now.
Yeah, she is. She was. I don't know if she still is, but she's a Red Bull.
She, on her Insta, she still reps the hat and tags them and whatever. So it feels like she is.
Yeah, I just felt like we were more of a Red Bull sport. But
listen, give me the caffeine.
Like I said, did Christian tell you about how good a time we had? I introduced him to White Monster. He loves it now.
Okay, all right.
We spent like the first 6 days of the week together. We made dinner together.
Yeah, we did.
Everybody loved it.
A lot of fun. Meat daddies.
He
didn't get you on his C4. What's that one you always drink, Christian?
The sour one, the sour apple one.
He couldn't find it.
The brain energy one.
Brain energy. That's it.
He couldn't find it. And also our workouts weren't that intense.
Just a lot of pump.
Yeah, every day we'd be like, you want to do a Metcon? And one of us would be like, no. And the other would be like, oh, thank God. Me neither. It's not.
All right, Jake. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the pod. Everyone listening, make sure you give Jake a follow on the gram at Jake Marconi. You can find that in the description of this episode. Or if you're watching on YouTube, there it is for you right on the screen. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. Christian, I'll be up in Long Island in September.
All right, sounds good. We'll definitely do some things.
Do some fitness, chase a sweet.
Yeah, that's it, baby.
Later.
Yeah, Joe, Christian, thank you guys.
Thanks.
No problem, bro. See you next time.
All right, there it was. Episode 10, Jake Marconi.
We're at 10, huh? That's a benchmark right there.
Double digits. Better watch out. Double digits. We're going to be at 100 before you know it, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Let's keep it going.
Absolutely. All right, man. I'll talk to you when I talk to you.
All right, now.
All right, everyone that's listening, please rate, subscribe, leave a comment. If you got some guests that you want to see on the show in the future, let us know. Make sure you give us a follow at Move Fast Lift Heavy. And I'm Joe Roscoe. Check us out, movefastliftheavy.com for all of our swag, online training. All things lifestyle and fitness. Later.
My name is Christian Harris. I'm a CrossFit athlete, coach, trainer, and founder of Move Fast Lift Heavy. MFLH has always been more than just apparel. It's a way to train, it's a lifestyle to live, and now we've leveled up that mantra by creating our online training platform. Move Fast Lift Heavy now provides personal online programming. The programming can be done either in a gym, with a garage gym setup, or even from the comfort of your own home with a dumbbell or even at body weight. This isn't just your typical workout block. You'll have unlimited access to our coaching staff to ask questions and submit technique videos. MFLH has always been more than just an apparel line. Now you can be a part of the team. Click the link to get started, and let's get to work.